Thank you very much. You'd asked me to give my background. So I worked at the Asian Development Bank in the Philippines for 20 years. I also worked with Citibank and Standard Chartered Bank. It's been 30 years since I first started working. I came back to India because of all the excitement I could have from Philippines, gone to Canada or Australia. So I'm here because what a great country ours is. I just want to talk about 4 different strategic areas in the field of education when I think of it. First of all, when I look at the medical space in India, I'm not saying anything new by saying what a shortage we have of medical facilities in this country, whether it's nurses, whether it's doctors, and what is the economic investment model that we should be pursuing to solve this problem. And I would like to submit to you that the PPP model, the public-private partnership model for medical education, is such an important thing that I'm sure many states are doing this, but I was looking at the UP state. The UP state has started PPP in the medical sector. One of the northeastern states has also started a PPP model to attract investment in a medical college combined with a hospital I think in Guwahati. So I would like to propagate in this forum that we should really promote more PPP projects across India in every state as much as needed. The reason is that, whatever amount of investment you want, the investment community is ready to provide. So whether it is Uttarakhand, whichever state you talk about, this is something. Now, one thing, when I was studying the medical sector in India, there were a lot of problems in the Indian Medical Council. The entire board of governors was changed. So I looked at the new board. Obviously, I was looking at it positively, and I'm sure it's a lovely board. But what really surprised me in that board, there wasn't a single businessman. You don't get set up, if you have the Indian Medical Council governance, meaning the board members, or the board of governors, everybody was a doctor. So he's a heart specialist, cardiogram specialist, whatever, You need to have in that 20 board members, I would say, there should have been at least 5 guys who come from the world of finance, who come from the world of business. Because at the end of the day, they play a vital role in giving approvals to the establishment of a medical college. Seema is on my right. She would know these processes better than me. So just the governance aspect. If you can throw in, 20% of all the board members of, board of governors of Indian Medical Council are business people. Maybe we need to throw in a Mr. Birla, maybe we need to throw in, somebody from the World Bank, whatever. You will get much more dynamism. And look, this is not about investment. I was talking to a banker the other day. You think you're a banker. No. All these things about private equity, M&A, finance, please forget these big words. It's about solving society's problems. We don't have enough medical college. We don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough nurses. So that's the first thing I'd like to say. Let's push PPP in whichever aspect of education in India, particularly, for example, I give you an example of the medical sector. And let's get to Indian Medical Council, to have even better board of governors than they now have. All the meta, scams and everything are gone, but we still need much more improvement. The other thing, the good news for our country is private equity, the growth of private equity. I'm so glad to see, the gentleman here from Balaji, the Balaji Fund, and talking previously was Sandeep Aneja at the previous session. And what a nice thing this is. Indian angel investors. This is really nice for our country. So if you're an entrepreneur today, what a great environment you're in. You've got private equity to support you. You've got angel investment to support you. You've got venture capital to support you. I have a website. Sorry for this little bit of marketing. I have a website called it's called indianpe.com. And it's sort of divided into different sectors. And one of them is in education. You should get into the education piece, because I'm assuming that all of you are from the education sector. So many projects have been financed by private equity in the field of education. So that's a great thing that our country has. And people are, you might read sometimes, oh, Vodafone has happened, foreign investors won't come in. Forget it. This is a great country. People are going to come and invest. Now, that doesn't mean that you take everything for granted. You have to have best practices. But, this is a great country you're in. So private equity is there for you. The other thing about an entrepreneur is that, an entrepreneur or an investor needs to exit at some point in time. And so we have the method of exit, of course, you have the IPO market, et cetera, which is dead right now. But you also have the mergers and acquisitions route. And a number of transactions have taken place in the education sector where exits have been provided through the M&A route. If you look at Educom, Educom must have done about half a dozen M&A transactions where they've acquired companies. The same way, Pearson has done a major acquisition M&A deal here in this country to acquire an existing education company. Career Launcher has also acquired other companies. This is a great thing because if you're an entrepreneur, whether you start off a little education company, get angel investment, you can sell it after 3, 4, 5 years to these guys, the big guys, and carry on and do another business in the education space and become a serial entrepreneur. All this is happening in India. I think it's great. And finally, on entrepreneurship, the angel environment is there, and Amity, Mr. Chauhan, of course, I respect and admire him very much, and I'm going to tom him a little bit. He's got Amity in incubation ventures, the incubating businesses. All this is there for you. If you're an entrepreneur, it's a great time to be in India in the education space. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Arvind. That's very, very interesting. How is the fundraising landscape at the moment? Are there a number of private equity funds like Balaji? Are there more coming? What does it look like for the potential company here that's looking at private equity? And how about funds that are not directly education focused? What sort of interest level is there in education from those funds? Perhaps a little comment on that.
My wife complains to me that I'm always positive. So I want to be positive. We're going to see, when I look at India, I compare it with China. When I was at ADB, I worked on China, I worked on India, I worked on Pakistan and all these countries. I look at, the good thing about China is that we've got to look at China to figure out what's going to happen in our country. China has a huge amount of private equity, much more than India, going into investments in all sectors, including the education sector. What's missing in India and what has started in China is domestic private equity. It's good, if you can get a pension fund from Canada to invest here, that's great. And these guys will come and these guys will go. They will, of course, long term, they're going to come more and more of the international investment. But what I would sort of throw on, into this group is, we do not have enough domestic private equity. You've got this Provident Fund Agency in India, EPF. These guys have to do much more allocation to private equity. They have to get professionalized. So my forecast for the future for India is, I look at China, and I would like to say to you that China has several times more domestic private equity than India has, and all that is going to come into India. It's not that we lack talent. We have all the talent. So that's my response to you, sir.